All right, let's pull back the curtain on hacking. We're going to treat it not as some dark, mysterious art, but as a science, a process that actually has rules and patterns. Once you understand the blueprint for an attack, you can build a blueprint for your own defense. So, let's get into it. I mean, it's a question that probably keeps you up at night, right? We all hear about these massive data breaches on the news. But what does it actually look like when it happens to you? How does an attacker get from way out there on the internet to right inside your digital life? Well, here's the thing. Almost every single hack isn't magic, it's engineering. I want you to think of it like a seesaw. On one end, you've got our natural human weaknesses. And on the other, you've got technical system flaws. A successful attack is almost never just one or the other. It's about finding that perfect, delicate balance between the two. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to deconstruct the attack. Then, we'll flip open the hacker's playbook and look at their go-to strategies. After that, we'll shift gears and start building your digital fortress, layer by layer. And finally, we'll talk about where the real battle for your security is fought. Okay, let's start by ripping this whole process apart. When we say hacking is a science, what do we really mean? Well, it all comes down to those two core components we just talked about. So, on one side of that seesaw, you've got human weakness. This is pure psychology. Attackers craft emails to trigger our fear, your account has been locked, or our curiosity, you won't believe this video. The whole point is to trick us into clicking something. And then, on the other side, you've got system flaws. These are the technical exploits, the little bugs and defects in the code that let an attacker just waltz past security. A really successful hack almost always plays both of these sides against each other. Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's get practical. What are the common plays an attacker is going to run against you? These are what we call attack vectors, basically the main paths into your system. First up, and I mean this is by far the most common one, is social engineering. See, this isn't an attack on your computer, it's an attack on you. The classic example is a phishing email that looks like it's from your bank. Or get this, sometimes attackers will leave a USB stick labeled payroll info in a company parking lot. That's called baiting, and it just banks on our curiosity. In both cases, the goal is the same, to manipulate you into opening the door for them. Next, we have system vulnerabilities. Just think of these as hidden tunnels into your digital world. Now, one type is called a zero-day vulnerability. This is a flaw that the software maker doesn't even know about yet, which makes it super dangerous. But you know what's often just as bad? Using an old, outdated system. The flaws are publicly known, the fixes are out there, but you just haven't updated. It's literally like leaving a rusty, broken lock on your front door for anyone to pick. So how do they get that malicious software onto your machine? Often, it's with a modern Trojan horse. First, they disguise the malware inside something you actually want, like a free version of some expensive software, or even inside an ad on a perfectly legitimate website. The trigger? Well, it's you. You click. That one click runs a hidden script, and boom, the payload is implanted. A Trojan program installs silently in the background, giving the attacker a secret backdoor right into your system. And then, of course, you have the good old-fashioned password attacks. The most common method these days is something called credential stuffing. Hackers get these huge lists of usernames and passwords that were leaked from some other website, and they just automatically try them on every other service out there. They're betting you reused your password. The other big one is just automated scanning, where bots are constantly trying weak, common passwords like password123 against any system they can find. So we can kind of map out all these attacks out by looking at two things: how technically complex they are and how much they need you, the user, to do something. For instance, social engineering is pretty low tech, but it absolutely relies on you taking the bait. A zero-day attack, on the other hand, is incredibly technical and might not need you to do anything at all. Understanding this whole spectrum is really the first step to building a defense that actually works. Okay, that's the scary part. That covers the main ways attackers get in. But look, knowing the playbook is how you start to write your own defensive strategy. We are now officially moving from the problem to the solution. It is time to build your fortress. And the core philosophy we are going to use here is called defense in depth. It's actually a military concept, but it applies perfectly to cybersecurity. The whole idea behind defense in depth is that you can't just rely on one single thing to protect you. A single, thick wall can always be broken. The goal is to build multiple, independent layers of security. So if an attacker gets past that first wall, they're immediately met with a second, and then a third. Each layer is designed to slow them down and protect what's really important. All right, your first and honestly your most important defensive layer is strengthening your authentication. Using a password manager is huge for this. It lets you have a unique, crazy complex password for every single website, and you don't have to remember any of them. You also have to enable two-factor authentication, or 2FA, everywhere you possibly can. This means even if a hacker steals your password, they can't get in without your phone. This one layer, all by itself, stops most password attacks dead in their tracks. Our second layer of defense is keeping your systems fresh. This is the direct counter to all those system vulnerabilities we talked about. Just turn on automatic updates for your operating system and for apps like your web browser. That alone will patch over 90% of known vulnerabilities. Also, do yourself a favor, uninstall programs you don't use anymore. The fewer programs you have, the smaller your attack surface is, which means fewer potential doors for an attacker to try and kick down. The third layer of defense is you. You have to become a human firewall. This is how you counter social engineering. For physical traps, the rule is dead simple. Never, ever plug a random USB stick you find into your computer. For the digital bait, you need to learn to stop, look, and think. Always check the sender's email address. Be super suspicious of links in urgent-sounding emails. If you get an email saying your bank account is locked, don't click the link. Just open a new browser tab and go to your bank's website directly to check. Our fourth layer is a really powerful technical step you can take right now: isolation. For your daily computer use, just operate from a standard user account, not an administrator account. See, an administrator can install software, change core system settings. Basically, they have the keys to the kingdom. If malware gets in while you're an admin, it gets those keys too. But if it gets in while you're a standard user, the damage is contained. It can't infect the core of the system. You only log into the admin account when you absolutely have to. So we've looked at the attacks and we've built our defensive layers. Now it's time to bring it all home and talk about the real battlefield. This is where it all clicks into place. You can see how each attack vector we talked about is shut down by a specific defensive layer. Social engineering, that gets stopped by the human firewall. System vulnerabilities, they're patched by keeping your systems updated. Malicious Trojans, they're blocked by that human firewall and the technical isolation we set up. And password attacks, they're completely shut down by strong authentication. You see how the layers work together? No single failure leads to a total disaster. But here's the real takeaway, the thing I really want you to remember. The ultimate opponent in cybersecurity, it isn't some shadowy hacker in a dark room. The real battle is against our own human nature. It's a fight against our own laziness, that temptation to reuse a password or put off an update for just one more day. And it's a fight against our own fear, the panic that makes us click on a threatening email without even thinking. Think about it. Keeping your systems updated defeats laziness. Not reusing passwords defeats laziness. Being skeptical and taking a moment before you click on an urgent message, that defeats fear. This is the core of it. If you can win this internal psychological battle, you've already neutralized the vast, vast majority of threats you're ever going to face. So we've laid out the blueprint for your defense. You have the science. The only question left is, where are you going to start? Is it setting up that password manager, turning on automatic updates, or just committing to taking a breath before clicking the next link? Which wall of your fortress will you strengthen first?